Commander Amy Wright stood at the viewport of Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the strange ship hover in orbit. It was unlike anything humans had ever built, sleek with odd angles that seemed to bend light around them. The aliens had arrived 3 days ago, and after much careful communication, they had asked for something unexpected: military help. "They want us to fight for them," she said, still not quite believing it herself. General Hayes nodded beside her. "That's why you've been selected, Commander. Your combat record speaks for itself." Amy turned away from the view of the alien vessel. At 38, she had served in conflicts across Earth and commanded the most decorated Special Forces unit in the EDF. But this was different. This was history. "When do I meet them?" she asked. "Now," the general replied. The meeting room felt too small for the creatures that waited inside. 3 aliens stood awkwardly on legs that bent in unusual ways. The tallest had blue-gray skin that shimmered under the lights and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Amy noticed how they all kept their distance from the humans in the room. The alien in the center stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Consortium of Allied Species." Its voice came through a small device at its throat, sounding almost musical. "We face extinction at the appendages of the Nexu. They consume everything in their path." Amy studied the alien. "And you came to Earth for help. We've barely reached Mars." Ambassador Krell's eyes blinked in a strange pattern. "We have observed your species from afar. Humans possess qualities that the Consortium needs." "What qualities?" Amy asked. "You fight differently," another alien said, this one smaller with reddish scales. "Many find it disturbing." General Hayes cleared his throat. "Ambassador, we're prepared to offer a small team for your evaluation. Commander Wright will lead our best soldiers to assist your efforts." The aliens looked at each other, communicating in clicks and whistles. Finally, Krell turned back. "Acceptable, though we expected larger specimens." Amy almost smiled at that. "Size isn't everything, Ambassador." 2 days later, Amy stood before her assembled team in the hangar. Lieutenant Peter Ford, a man of few words and steady hands. Communications specialist Kevin Adams, whose mind worked faster than his mouth. Dr. Susan Miller, brilliant under pressure. Engineer Jack Porter, who could build a weapon from spare parts. And Sergeant Ben Collins, whose calm demeanor hid a tactical genius. "Listen up," Amy said. "We're about to make history as the first humans to fight alongside aliens. The Consortium doesn't think much of us physically. They're all bigger, stronger, and have technology we can't even understand. But they came to us for a reason. Because we're crazy." Adams suggested with a half-smile. "Maybe," Amy admitted. "The aliens call us unpredictable and concerning. I think those are compliments." Porter hefted his modified rifle. "Do we know anything about these Nexu we're supposed to fight?" "Only that they're winning," Amy replied. "The Consortium has lost 37 star systems in the past year. They're desperate enough to ask a primitive species for help." Dr. Miller looked up from her medical kit. "Are we ready for this? Alien biology, alien weapons, alien everything." Amy looked at each member of her team. "No, but we'll adapt. That's what humans do." The alien shuttle that would take them to the Consortium flagship waited, its door open like the mouth of some strange beast. As they approached, Amy noticed how the alien crew watched them, with a mixture of hope and what looked like fear. "Commander," Lieutenant Ford said quietly beside her, "the aliens are afraid of us. Why would they fear humans if they have such advanced technology?" Amy watched as their gear was loaded onto the shuttle. "I don't know, Ford, but I think we're going to find out." As the shuttle doors closed and the engines hummed to life, Amy felt Earth's gravity letting go. They were heading into the unknown, 6 humans against a galaxy at war. She didn't know if they would succeed or even survive, but one thing was certain: The galaxy was about to learn what humans were capable of. The alien ship Celestial Vanguard was huge beyond anything Amy could have imagined. Their shuttle seemed tiny as it flew into a docking bay large enough to hold several aircraft carriers. The human team stared through the viewports in silence. "Look at the size of this place," whispered Adams. "We could fit all of Earth's navies inside." Amy noticed how the alien crew kept their distance as her team exited the shuttle. They moved with careful steps, as if the humans might explode. A tall reptilian alien with dark green scales and golden eyes approached them. "I am Commander Xarvesh," the alien said, its voice deep and rumbling through the translator. "Welcome to the Celestial Vanguard humans. I command this battle group." Amy stepped forward. "Commander Amy Wright, Earth Defense Force. This is my team." Xarvesh looked down at them, blinking slowly. "You are smaller than expected." "We get that a lot," Amy replied. "Size isn't what makes humans good fighters." "So I have been told," Xarvesh said. "Come, we must brief you quickly. The Nexu wait for no species." They followed the alien commander through hallways filled with strange creatures. Some had multiple arms, others moved on tentacles instead of legs, and a few seemed to float rather than walk. All of them moved aside when they saw the humans coming. In a large room with a glowing map of stars, Xarvesh explained their situation. "The Nexu have pushed into this sector. They consume all life, strip planets of resources, and move on. Nothing stops them." "Why did you seek out humans specifically?" Ford asked. A different alien, with blue skin and 4 arms, joined them at the map. "Your species has a quality we lack. You fight differently." "What my science officer means," said Xarvesh, "is that humans are unpredictable. You take risks we would consider unacceptable. Your history is filled with battles won against impossible odds." Before Amy could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. "Nexu Scout Fleet," shouted an alien at a control panel. 3 vessels, approaching fast. Xarvesh turned to Amy. "It seems your trial by fire comes now, Commander Wright. Are your humans ready?" Amy nodded to her team. "We're always ready." "Then we will observe how you fight," said Xarvesh. "You may join our defense teams." The battle started before they even reached their positions. The ship shook as enemy weapons hit its shields. Through viewing screens, Amy saw the Nexu ships. Black, spiky vessels that moved with frightening speed. "Those aren't scouts," Ford said quietly. "That's an attack formation." Amy agreed. "They're testing the defenses. Adams, can you tap into their communications?" The aliens looked surprised. "Impossible," said the blue 4-armed alien. "Nexu communications are encrypted beyond our capabilities." Adams just grinned and pulled out his equipment. Challenge accepted. As the ship rocked with another hit, Amy made a quick decision. "Ford, take Porter and Collins. Find a way to hit those ships from an unexpected angle." "That would break formation," protested Xarvesh. "Our defense protocols." "With respect, Commander," Amy interrupted, "we do things differently. That's why you brought us here." The alien hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Proceed." What happened next shocked the aliens. Ford led his team to a small fighter bay, and instead of following standard procedures, launched themselves directly at the largest enemy ship. Adams, meanwhile, had hacked into the Nexu communications and was broadcasting false retreat orders. When a Nexu boarding party managed to breach the Celestial Vanguard Amy and Dr. Miller found themselves cornered in a corridor. The Nexu were terrifying up close. Tall, insect-like creatures with too many limbs and glowing red eyes. Amy took a hit that sliced her arm open. The aliens watching from safety expected her to retreat. Instead, she charged forward, firing her weapon with deadly accuracy. She continues to fight with fatal wounds. One alien observer gasped. Dr. Miller, while returning fire, called back, "That's hardly fatal. You should see what humans consider serious injuries." By the time the brief but intense battle ended, the Nexu ships were retreating. Ford's unorthodox attack had disabled their main weapons, Adam's false communications had confused their formations, and Amy's team had repelled the boarders with minimal casualties. The alien crew stared at the humans with new eyes, filled with both respect and fear. XRVesh approached Amy as Dr. Miller bandaged her arm. "You fight like nothing we have ever seen," the alien commander said quietly. "The consortium was right to seek you out." "This was just the beginning," Amy replied. "Wait until you see what humans can really do." News of the human victory spread quickly through the consortium fleet. Within days, Amy and her team became the center of attention. Some alien captains requested human advisors for their ships. Others refused to allow humans aboard, calling them too unpredictable and dangerous. Dr. Susan Miller sat in the medical bay of the Celestial Vanguard examining alien medical equipment. A group of consortium doctors watched her from a safe distance. "Your healing methods are primitive," said one doctor, a tall being with pale skin and 6 fingers on each hand, "yet effective." Susan smiled. "Humans have been patching each other up for thousands of years. We're good at it." The alien doctor moved closer, fascinated. "Is it true that humans can continue fighting with injuries that would incapacitate other species?" "Depends on the injury," Susan replied. "But yes, humans can endure a lot of pain when necessary." In another part of the ship, engineer Jack Porter had assembled a small crowd of alien technicians. Using parts from damaged equipment, he had built an improved weapon system. "This modification will increase your weapon power by 30%, Jack explained, showing them his work. One of the aliens, a squat creature with metallic-looking skin, examined the weapon. "But this would make the discharge lethal rather than merely disabling." Jack looked confused. "Isn't that the point in a war? To stop the enemy permanently?" The aliens exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jack realized that consortium weapons were designed to disable rather than kill whenever possible. The concept of creating more lethal weapons disturbed them deeply. Meanwhile, Commander Amy Wright met with XRVesh and other fleet commanders. The star map showed Nexu forces pushing through multiple systems. The Nexu advance along predictable paths. XRVesh explained, "We set up defensive lines here and here." He pointed to positions far from the Nexu advance. Amy studied the map. "Why not strike at their supply lines? Cut them off here and here." "That would require sending ships behind enemy lines," objected another commander. "Too risky." "Risk is part of warfare," Amy replied. "The Nexu don't expect you to attack them. That's why they're winning." The alien commanders seemed troubled by her suggestion. One of them, a floating orb-like being that communicated through light patterns, flashed rapidly. "The human suggests tactics that go against 5,000 years of consortium military doctrine," translated XRVesh. Amy watched the aliens debate among themselves. She was beginning to understand something important. These species had evolved in environments that discouraged the aggressive problem-solving that humans took for granted. They fought methodically, predictably, and with minimal risk. Later, Amy gathered her team in their quarters to share her insights. "The consortium species evolved differently than humans," she explained. "They developed technology before they developed our kind of tactical thinking." "They're too cautious," Ford added. "I watched their fighter pilots today. They fly in perfect formations, never deviate from protocols." Adams nodded. "Their communication systems are advanced, but they never consider that someone might hack them. They have no concept of electronic warfare." "And their weapons," said Porter, "designed to minimize damage rather than maximize it. They fight like they're afraid of hurting anyone." "Because they are," Amy replied. "Their whole society values order and predictability. The Nexu are winning because they're slightly more aggressive, but still follow patterns the consortium can't break out of." "So where does that leave us?" asked Dr. Miller. Amy looked at her team. It leaves us teaching them how to fight the human way. Aggressive, unpredictable, willing to take risks. They're afraid of us, Collins pointed out. I see how they look at us when they think we're not watching. They should be, Amy said quietly, because what we're going to teach them goes against everything they believe. But it's the only way they'll survive. As if to prove her point, the ship's alarms sounded again. Nexu forces had been detected nearby, a much larger fleet this time. Amy stood. Time for lesson 2. Let's show them how humans really fight. Her team followed her out, ready to demonstrate why, throughout human history, when humans came to battle, everyone learned to fear them. 3 months passed. The human approach to warfare began to change the tide of battle. After several victories, the consortium formed a special unit made up entirely of humans, called Terran Vanguard. More humans arrived from Earth, eager to join the fight and see the stars. Pilot Olivia Diaz became famous among the aliens after a battle near a gas giant. Enemy ships had trapped 3 consortium vessels against the planet's gravity. Standard procedure was to surrender when surrounded. Instead, Olivia flew her fighter through a narrow gap in the planet's rings that the aliens thought was impossible to navigate. The human flew through a space only 1.2 times the width of her craft, an alien commander reported later. At speeds our pilots would never attempt. Olivia's daring flight distracted the Nexu long enough for the trapped ships to escape. When asked about it later, she shrugged. Just a bit of fancy flying. Any good pilot from Earth would have tried the same thing. The aliens didn't understand that humans had been pushing the limits of flight since the Wright brothers first left the ground. Sergeant Ben Collins introduced the aliens to a concept they had never considered: guerrilla warfare. When a Nexu command ship was discovered near an abandoned outpost, the consortium planned a full retreat from the area. Why retreat when we can attack? Ben asked during the strategy meeting. Karvesh looked confused. Their forces outnumber us 10-1. Numbers aren't everything, Ben replied. We need a small team to slip past their lines and hit that command ship directly. The aliens thought the plan was suicide, but Commander Wright approved it. Ben led a team of 4 humans and 2 brave aliens who volunteered. They used a small, unmarked ship to approach the Nexu vessel, boarded it using specially designed cutting tools Porter had created, and planted explosives at key points. The resulting destruction threw the entire Nexu fleet into chaos. Without their command ship, they fell back, giving the consortium forces a major victory. When Ben's team returned, the aliens stared at them with a mixture of awe and fear. One of the alien volunteers, a warrior called Crack from the 4-armed Karak species, approached Amy afterward. I now understand why the humans were sought out, Crack said. Your Sergeant Collins showed us how to fight in ways we never imagined. Small force against large. Stealth instead of direct confrontation. Amy nodded. Humans learned these tactics fighting each other over thousands of years. Your species fought itself. Crack seemed shocked. Constantly, Amy admitted. It's not something we're proud of, but it taught us to adapt and overcome. Despite these successes, problems were growing. The consortium high command was worried about the human influence. In a private meeting, Sarvesh showed Amy a message from his superiors. They fear the human way disrupts the balance of power among our species, he explained. Some leaders worry that after we defeat the Nexu, humans might become a greater threat. Annie wasn't surprised. They're right to worry. Not because we want to threaten anyone, but because change is always frightening. Sarvesh studied her. What should I tell them? Tell them that humans aren't here to take over, Amy said. We're here to help you survive. But survival sometimes requires adaptation. The next day, Amy presented a bold plan to the fleet commanders. She proposed a direct assault on a key Nexu stronghold, using tactics no consortium commander would ever consider. This plan violates 17 standard protocols, objected one commander. It places ships in unnecessary danger. Sometimes the greatest risk is taking no risk at all, Amy replied. The Nexu expect you to follow your protocols. That's why they keep winning. The room fell silent. Finally, HFY spoke. Commander Wright has proven the effectiveness of human tactics. I support this plan. One by one, other commanders agreed. Some reluctantly, some enthusiastically. The course was set. As the fleet prepared for battle, Amy watched the stars from the observation deck. Ford joined her, standing silently for a moment. They're starting to follow our lead, he said. Amy nodded. They are, but some of them are terrified of what that means. And they should be, Ford replied. Because once you start fighting like humans, you never go back to the old ways. As human reputation grew throughout the consortium fleet, so did fear. Amy discovered this when intelligence officer Ryan Garcia brought her disturbing news. He had been monitoring consortium communications as part of his regular duties. Some of the high-ranking officials are talking about us, Ryan told her in the privacy of her quarters, and not in a good way. Amy looked up from the battle plans she was reviewing. What kind of talk? They're wondering if humans might become a bigger threat than the Nexu after the war ends, Ryan explained. There have been discussions about ways to neutralize us once we're no longer needed. Amy wasn't surprised. We're changing too many things too quickly for them. Change is scary. Should we be worried? Ryan asked. Keep monitoring, Amy replied. But don't tell the others yet. We need to focus on winning this war first. The next day, the combined fleet launched the attack on the Nexu stronghold. Amy's plan worked perfectly. While the main fleet approached from the front, drawing the Nexu's attention, a smaller group of ships circled behind and attacked from an unexpected direction. The Nexu, not prepared for such a tactic, scrambled to respond. In the middle of the battle, something unexpected happened. A Nexu ship took a direct hit and began drifting, disabled but not destroyed. Standard consortium procedure was to finish off any disabled enemy ship immediately. Target locked on disabled Nexu vessel, reported an alien weapons officer, ready to destroy. Wait, Amy ordered. There's something different about that ship. The energy readings are unusual. We should destroy it now, insisted a consortium commander. It is protocol. Amy shook her head. Sometimes we need to break protocol to learn something new. Dr. Miller, what do you think? Susan studied the readings. It looks like their main control systems are damaged. The ship might be operating independently of the hive mind. Amy made a quick decision. I want to capture that ship, not destroy it. We need to study the Nexu up close. The alien commanders were shocked. Boarding a Nexu vessel was considered suicide. But Amy insisted, and her record of success gave her words weight. A boarding team led by Ford and Collins launched toward the disabled ship. After a tense hour, they reported back. Commander, you need to see this. Ford's voice came through the comm system. The Nexu, they're not what we thought. 2 hours later, Amy stood in a secure laboratory aboard the Celestial Vanguard *, looking at a captured Nexu. The creature was insect-like, with multiple limbs and compound eyes, but it wasn't attacking or struggling. Instead, it seemed confused, almost lost. Dr. Miller pointed to a small device attached to the back of the Nexu's head. This is some kind of control mechanism. It's damaged, which is why this one isn't trying to kill us. Harvesh and other alien leaders stared in disbelief. Are you saying the Nexu are controlled by something else? That's exactly what I'm saying, Susan replied. They're not choosing to fight. They're being forced to. Adams, who had been studying the Nexu ship's communication systems, rushed into the lab. I found something. There's a signal being broadcast to all Nexu ships. It's coming from outside the known galaxy. The implications hit everyone at once. The Nexu weren't the real enemy. They were tools being used by something else, something that had remained hidden. In a bold move that shocked the consortium commanders, Amy approached the captured Nexu. The creature watched her with its alien eyes. Can you understand me? she asked slowly. The Nexu made a series of clicking sounds. Adams adjusted his translation device, trying different settings. Finally, words came through. Help. Us. The room fell silent. Amy looked at the faces around her, human and alien alike. Their expressions showed the same mix of shock and realization. We've been fighting the wrong enemy, she said quietly. The Nexu are victims, just like the consortium worlds they've destroyed. Karvesh stepped forward. If not the Nexu, then who is our true enemy? Amy looked back at the captured creature. That's what we need to find out. And I think our new friend here is going to help us. The human way had done more than change battle tactics. It had changed the entire nature of the war. Armed with new information about the true enemy, Amy called an emergency meeting with the consortium leadership. The observation room was packed with alien commanders, all talking nervously among themselves. The captured Nexu, now called Scout by the humans, stood in a special containment field, watched closely by armed guards. What I am about to propose will sound insane, Amy began, but I need you to listen. She outlined her plan. Use the knowledge gained from Scout to temporarily disrupt the control signal to the Nexu hive mind. During that brief window of freedom, they would attempt to communicate with the Nexu and form an alliance against their true enemy. This is madness, shouted one commander, a tall being with crystalline skin. The Nexu have destroyed dozens of our worlds. Not by choice, Amy countered. They're slaves, just like Scout here. And they've been enslaved for thousands of years. Zarvesh, who had come to trust Amy's judgment, asked the question everyone was thinking. And if you free them from control, what prevents them from continuing to attack us anyway? Scout made a series of clicks and whistles. Adams, who had been working on better translation, interpreted. Nexu not warriors. Nexu builders, explorers, want peace. The room erupted in debate. Some commanders refused to believe that their enemy of many years could suddenly become an ally. Others saw the logic in Amy's plan, despite the risks. In the end, Xarvesh made the decision. We will try Commander Wright's plan. We have trusted human tactics this far. We must trust them now. Over the next week, communications specialist Adams worked with Dr. Miller and Scout to develop a method to disrupt the control signal. Porter and his engineering team built a device that could broadcast a countermeasure across a wide area of space. This is the most complicated thing I've ever built, Porter admitted as he made final adjustments. And I'm not entirely sure it will work. It will work, Amy assured him. It has to. The plan required getting close to a major Nexu fleet without being destroyed. They would need to broadcast the disruption signal at just the right moment, then immediately attempt communication before the controllers could re-establish their link. Amy selected a small, fast ship for the mission. She would lead the team herself, along with Adams, Dr. Miller, and Scout. Despite protests from Ford and the others, she insisted on going. This isn't about fighting, she explained to her team. This is about communication. First contact with the real Nexu. I need to be there. The night before the mission, Xarvesh found Amy on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The consortium has existed for 12,000 years, the alien commander said. In all that time, we never considered that our enemy might not be our enemy at all. Amy nodded. Humans have made similar mistakes. We often fight before we understand. But you also seek understanding even in the middle of war, Sarvesh replied. That is the quality we lacked. The next day, their small ship approached the Nexu fleet. As expected, the massive black vessels moved to intercept them. Amy felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. But this time, they weren't here to fight. Disruption device ready, Porter reported from his station. Translation systems online, added Adams. Amy looked at Scout, who had insisted on being part of the mission. Ready? The Nexu made a gesture that the humans had come to recognize as affirmative. Activate the device, Amy ordered. The ship shuddered as the disruption signal broadcast outward. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Nexu ships stopped their approach. "It's working," Dr. Miller whispered. Adams began broadcasting Scout's message, a complex series of sounds and electromagnetic pulses that explained their situation and offered alliance. The response came faster than anyone expected. A message in mixed Nexu and consortium language. "We hear. We see. We have been prisoners for millennia. Who offers freedom?" Amy stepped forward to the communication panel. "Humans offer freedom. And we offer alliance against those who enslaved you." There was a pause then. "The ancient machines have controlled us for too long. We accept your alliance, humans. The Nexu will fight with you, not against you." As their ship returned to the consortium fleet, accompanied by Nexu vessels now under their own control, Amy realized they had just changed the course of the war. The true enemy was revealed, an ancient machine intelligence that had been manipulating species against each other for eons. And now, for the first time, it would face something it had never encountered before: humans and their unpredictable ways. The final battle required the largest fleet ever assembled in the galaxy's history. Ships from every consortium species joined with the freed Nexu vessels, forming an armada that stretched as far as the eye could see. At its center was the Earth ship Defiance recently arrived from humanity's homeworld with reinforcements and advanced weapons. Commander Amy Wright, now promoted to admiral by both human and consortium authorities, stood on the bridge of the Defiance. The past month had been spent planning this attack against the ancient machines, a mechanical intelligence that had manipulated galactic civilizations for countless millennia. "Fleet reports ready, Admiral," said Lieutenant Ford from his station. Amy nodded. "Signal all ships. Begin Operation Freedom." The combined fleet jumped to the coordinates where the Nexu had traced the control signals. They emerged near a massive structure unlike anything they had ever seen. A sphere the size of a small moon, surrounded by smaller satellites. It pulsed with strange energy that their sensors could barely comprehend. "By the stars," whispered Tarvesh, who had joined Amy on the Defiance. "What have we found?" Before anyone could respond, the ancient machines attacked. Energy beams shot out from the sphere, cutting through several ships instantly. Strange vessels emerged from hidden bays, sleek and deadly. "They were waiting for us," Ford said grimly. Amy watched as their carefully planned formation began to break apart under the unexpected assault. Conventional tactics were failing against defenses beyond their understanding. "It's time for Protocol Omega," she announced. The alien commanders looked nervous. Protocol Omega was a uniquely human strategy that combined self-sacrifice, misdirection, and controlled chaos. Many found it disturbing, but none could deny its potential effectiveness. "Begin the diversion," Amy ordered. Lieutenant Ford led a group of fast attack ships directly toward the main sphere, drawing heavy fire. It looked like a suicide mission, and the ancient machines responded predictably, focusing their defenses on this apparent threat. Meanwhile, Engineer Porter and a team of human and alien specialists approached the sphere from another angle in specially shielded shuttles. Their mission was to deliver a computer virus designed by Adams into the machine's core. "Porter's team has reached the outer hull," reported an officer. Amy watched the tactical display tensely. "Tell them they have 15 minutes before we have to pull back. Make it count." Inside the sphere, Porter and his team fought their way through automated defenses. They lost 3 members before reaching the central processing hub. The alien technicians worked frantically to interface with the ancient systems, while Porter kept enemy units at bay. "We're in," came Porter's voice over the comm. "Uploading Adams' virus now." Outside, the battle raged. The Defiance took heavy damage as Amy positioned it to protect the smaller vessels. Several consortium and Nexu ships were destroyed, but they held the line, giving Porter's team the time they needed. Suddenly, the sphere's energy output began to fluctuate. The enemy ships slowed, then stopped entirely. A message broadcast across all frequencies, a mechanical voice speaking in all known languages simultaneously. We sought to contain you. Humans were the variable we could not predict. What have we unleashed upon the stars? Then silence. The ancient machines began to shut down, their power systems failing as Adam's virus spread through their network. The battle was over. In the days that followed, the true story emerged. The ancient machines had been created billions of years ago by a now extinct species. They had been programmed to preserve order in the galaxy by preventing any single species from becoming too powerful. Over time, that directive had corrupted, leading them to manipulate civilizations into endless conflict. 1 month later, Admiral Wright stood before the Consortium Assembly, representatives of every member species, plus the newly admitted Nexu. The hall fell silent as she stepped up to speak. "We came to help you fight a war," Amy began. "We didn't expect to change the galaxy. The ancient machines feared humans because we were unpredictable. They couldn't control what they couldn't understand." She looked around at the assembled aliens, many of whom had once feared humans as much as they had feared the Nexu. "You called us to battle because you feared extinction. We answered because that's what humans do. We protect. And yes, the enemy cowered in fear, but not because we are monsters. They feared us because we refused to accept defeat, even when victory seemed impossible. That is humanity's gift to the stars." As applause filled the hall, Amy thought about the long journey home to Earth. Humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest, but by helping others find freedom. The galaxy would never be the same again. And perhaps that was the most human outcome of all.